How all these woke historians are rewriting history.
If you spend too much time on social media, very quickly you'll find a comment like that, usually in response to an interpretation like, actually the British Empire wasn't that great for a lot of people. And the accusation is that historians are going and trying to change the past. They're rewriting history, they're putting an agenda on it. Before we get into it, hi, I'm Zach. I have a doctorate in military and legal history, and I talk a lot about the Napoleonic Wars. If that interests you, hit subscribe. The thing is, with this sort of historians are putting an agenda on the past argument, it misses a really key point. Historians have always done that. Traditionally, the early histories of any period were what we called kind of grand narratives. They were telling the story, but they were doing so through and using the morals of the time. So they focused usually on the leaders, the generals, the big decision makers, the people at the top. And they made some pretty sweeping comments about a lot of things that were designed to make readers feel good about their national history. It's a great way to sell books. And this led to what some call the Great Man of History school, which was basically this massive sausage fest. It's all about the male leaders, the men in politics, the men in society, the male artists, the male soldiers, and so on. And they were writing in a time when women were basically told to stay in what was called the domestic sphere, basically stay at home, look after the kids. You couldn't start talking about women's achievements, or heaven forbid, they might get ideas above their station and start wanting the vote or something. That was sarcasm, in case you hadn't realised. Now, historical interpretations are a bit like fashion trends, and certain ideas come in and out of vogue. So, for example, there was a Marxist school, which was really interested in sort of economic history. We've also had history from below, which is about trying to tell the story of the ordinary people and the working class. And this became particularly key in the 1960s onwards, when professional historians wanted to try and fill some of the gaps from having focused exclusively at the guys at the top. Essentially, the mentality was enough about the white dudes making all of the big decisions because they're leaders. That's interesting, but let's start working out what the average people were doing, thinking, feeling. And this has given rise to a wide array of really interesting topics. So in military history, for example, almost all of the work done these days is on what soldiers thought and felt and experienced. So, for example, I do a lot of work on crime and punishment in the armed forces. There's also much more work being done on women in the armed forces, either in roles that they were allowed to fulfill, or looking at cases where women hid their identity and asking why male colleagues really didn't care and didn't grasp them up. We've also done a lot more work on racial minorities in the armed forces. And the more we've gone on, the more people have really started to open this up and look at what happens to people of different ethnicities, people of different sexual persuasions, as we found more and more gaps in our understanding. And society has, for the most part, become more tolerant and more interested in how diverse human experiences and interests have been across history. So when people say, you historians are being woke, is it being woke to care about other people? Is it being woke to acknowledge that people in the past were homosexual or bisexual as well as heterosexual? Is it woke to say that women's stories are worth telling, considering that they made up like half the population of history and get about 10% of the coverage? Is it woke to try and make history the story of everyone in society? Or are historians just doing their job to tell us as much as possible about humanity's past? Tell me what you think in the comments, like and subscribe for more, and stay nerdy.